Thank you for joining us on KTN Prime. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is Maresha Owiti.
We begin with some late breaking news coming out of Europe. British newspapers are reporting that one of the world's most wanted terrorists, Samantha Luthwaite, has been shot dead in Russia.
According to the Daily Mirror and the Daily Mail, the 30-year-old British woman, commonly known as the White Widow, may have been killed by Russian snipers in Ukraine. The papers, quoting Russian sources, say Samantha was shot some 2 weeks ago.
She had earlier been reported to be in Syria fighting alongside the Islamic State terror group ISIS. Samantha is an alleged member of the based radical militant group.
She has been accused of orchestrating grenade attacks at non-Muslim places of worship and is believed to have been behind the attack on a bar in Mombasa in 2012.
In September last year, there was speculation over her possible involvement in the Westgate terror attack, even though the claims were never verified. That is late breaking news coming from Europe. That is, of course, the killing of Samantha Luthwaite, being claimed that she has been killed by Russian snipers. And the papers are reporting that Luthwaite has been shot dead in Russia.
Indeed, dailies across Europe are reporting that Luthwaite may have been killed, and we are not so sure about where exactly she was killed. The report that we're getting is that she may have been killed about 2 weeks ago, and she was reported last month as fighting for the ISIS terrorist group. She was reportedly gunned down by a Russian sniper about 2 weeks ago, and the extraordinary claim that the 30-year-old is dead is yet to be verified. We're working on that and they're looking to get more details for you on that particular story.
That story has been broken by Regnab News in Russia. The 30-year-old Samantha Luthwaite, one of Britain's most wanted and one of the world's most wanted person, has been killed. That is about 2 weeks ago. We are keeping an eye on that breaking news for you. We shall be giving you more details as soon as we get them.
Indeed, let's still stay with security matters, and 10 Al-Shabaab suspects have been arrested, among them 2 women who are reportedly planning terrorist attack in the country.
The Office of the Inspector General says the suspects were planning a large-scale attack similar to Westgate.
While issuing the statement, police spokesperson Zipporah Mboroki said that politicians orchestrated the recent unrest in Mombasa.
Al-Shabaab ambao walikuwa wameingia hapa nchini wakitaka kulipiza kisasi, na hawa Al-Shabaab tunashuku ni wale walitenda kitendo hizi zimekuwa zikitendeka hapa mjini Nairobi. Walitoka kwa nchi yetu na wamerudi tena. Wamerudi kwa nchi wakiwa na wanawake wawili, au wanawake ni suicide bombers. Polisi walipata habari iko watu ambaye wamejitolea kupea hawa vijana wetu wandogo waingie wajiunge na vikundi ambaye haramu ambaye sitakiwi, na alafu wamehenda saindi kuambia vijana kupiga raia ambaye hawana hatia. Hii tunafanya uchunguzi na tukimaliza tutajulisha nyinyi.
Let's stay with security. And political leaders drawn from various quarters today expressed their disappointment in the government's handling of the security operation in Kapedo, at the border between Turkana and Baringo counties. Tough-talking NARC Kenya leader Martha Karua is now calling for the resignation of top security officials who, in her view, have proven unable to do their jobs.
In developed democracies, people don't even wait to be fired. If you are unable to handle your docket and things keep happening, you also owe a duty to Kenyans to exit and let other people be appointed to this position, people who can handle. But the question to our president, where the buck stops, isn't it time you thought about the suitability of your chief security officers? How many more deaths before you rethink who ought to head security in Kenya?
I want to urge the security at the national level to focus on this area so that we have a bit of calm. We don't know whether there are any other attacks that are likely to follow up the yesterday's incident.
Let's now focus on the tetanus vaccine that has raised a lot of concern in the country. The World Health Organization and United Nations Children's Fund now say the tetanus vaccines currently being administered in the country are safe and procured from a pre-qualified manufacturer. A statement from the two organizations released this evening says the safety of the vaccine is assured through a three-pronged global testing system and claims that the vaccine is contaminated with a hormone that can cause miscarriage and render some women sterile and not backed by evidence. The two bodies warned that the allegations against the vaccines risked negatively impacting on immunization programs, assuring recipients that the tetanus vaccines being given are perfectly safe. According to UNICEF and WHO, the vaccine has reached more than 130 million women in 52 countries. An assurance there by World Health Organization and UNICEF on the tetanus vaccine currently being administered in the country. Let's see how that plays out in the coming days. Now, even as he speaks about his former efforts to uplift the living standards of the people in Kibera, the man Raila Odinga is currently leading a party shaken by internal wrangles and an uncertain future. In an exclusive interview with KTN's Yvonne Okwara today, Raila Odinga gives his version of events that saw ODM Executive Director Margaret Lagat manhandled in his presence at Orange House. He also speaks on allegations of moles within the party and whether he will contest the presidency in 2017. Here's what he had to say.
Okay, so let's begin with the events of October the 30th when Margaret Lagat was forcibly removed from that Orange House meeting. And some say you watched the events unfold without intervening to help him. In fact, in an interview with a local newspaper recently, Margaret is quoted as saying that you were privy to the events of the attack.
The people were there, fortunately, so it was not just me who was around. And everybody knows that we didn't know what was going to happen. We just had a commotion from outside. Then the group tried to come in. In fact, my colleague, Kalonzo Musyoka, was saying, allow them to get in. But then I am the one who said, no, this is a PG meeting, and those are not members of the PG. A lady walked in, talked to Margaret. Then Margaret tells me that these people are accusing me of saying what I did not say. I was not even aware of what was going on at that time. Then, as we tried to restrain these people coming in, they had already marched in, and then they got hold of Margaret walking out. I walked behind and ordered my askari to rush to help him because I didn't know that they were just leading him out of the compound. I thought they were going to harm him. So I ordered my police officer to go and help him. My officer defied me, saying he cannot go and leave me alone. I said, it's an order. And they defied the order. And you know what? I fired that police officer. That same day, I directed that he be taken back to the fold, the police, and he has been replaced. If I had known what was happening, I would not have done that.
Let's have your thoughts now on the meeting that took place between Honorable Namwamba, Honorable Mungaro, Governor Mutua and Margaret Lagat. They said it was a coincidence. People are pointing to something more because these are people who've been branded rebels or moles, if you like. What do you think of that meeting? Is it significant? Does it mean anything for ODM? Do you think there's a breakaway in the works?
You see, ODM is a very democratic party. And we allow our members a lot of latitude. I don't think it's right to try to micromanage grown-ups, members of the political party. They have a democratic right and democratic space to meet with whoever they do meet. I have confidence in a number of those members. Honorable Namwamba has since come to see me and explained to me the circumstances under which that photograph was taken. And he has said he has no intention of leaving the party. that is going to remain very faithful to the party. I think there's a lot of speculation, particularly in the media. And for once, I want to really complain that the media is actually now one of the biggest impediment to thriving of political parties. I think the media is adding too much fuel. I've been amused by some of the cartoons I see in some of the papers. But I know that I've been in politics long enough, and I know my obituary has been written so many times by this media. Some of the people who wrote my obituary in the 70s are themselves actually gone before me. So I'm not worried. I think ODM is a strong party. We have challenges like other parties. You see, the thing is that we are the only political party in this country with functioning organs, which will meet to deal with issues. You've got the party branches and sub-branches. We have got NEC. You've got the General Council. You've got the Delegate Conference. So we have a functioning political party. The others still have what you call interim office bearers. You never had, since the TNA was launched, or URP, you never had them doing grassroots elections. You have never had them do a delegates conference.
But yet your own elections ended in controversy earlier this year.
Yeah, I'm saying, but at least we attempted to do it. At least we attempted to do it. When did TNA do theirs? When did the URP do theirs? We went there, and it was unfortunate. So what we've been doing is to try to bring the factions together so that the party remains intact.
Okay. Let's talk about democracy. And you just mentioned a little earlier that ODM is democratic, yet there's a feeling that dissenting opinions are not allowed in the party. Anybody that stands up to disagree with what is popular within the party is then branded a mole. Magerer has now been branded a mole, so has Ababu Namwamba, so has Gideon Mungaro. Do you believe that these three are Jubilee moles within your party?
I don't think that the fact that you find members disagreeing and charging each other being moles itself is democratic, because what action has been taken against those who are branding others moles or those who are being branded moles? We have not taken any action against any of those members. That is democracy. They accuse each other, and that's fine. Maybe because probably Jubilee is trying to weaken our party. But I mean, that is normal in any democratic society. Political parties campaign for political space. So we have not seen anybody who is a mole. That's why the official party has not said anything. Members accuse each other. So it is not ODM accusing any of its members. It is individual members accusing each other. This also is a mole. So but we don't believe in those accusations as a party officially. There's not a party position.
Let's delve into a little bit of politics now. You've been on the ballot paper 3 times, and twice you've come so close, yet victory eludes you. Will you be on the ballot in 2017? And if so, what strategy will be different to ensure success the 4th time around?
First, I want to disabuse this notion of victory eludes me. I think Kenyans ought to be honest enough to call a spade and not a big spoon. The problem is not about victory. The problem is about the dysfunctioning electoral system. In 2007, who does not know in this country that I won? Every fool knows that. Mr. Kriegler, Judge Kriegler, who was appointed to investigate the conduct of elections, when he came to my office, the first thing he told me is that, Mr. Dinga, I want you to know that I've not come here to tell Kenyans who won or who lost last elections. Every fool knows that. I've come here to ensure that what happened last time does not recur in the future. That's what Justice Kriegler said. So it's not Raila Odinga coming too close. It is the fault with our electoral system. Last time around, we went to court, and the facts have come out. So whether I'm going to be in ballots next time around, that is not Raila Odinga. That is for the Kenyans, it's for the members of the movement that I run. First, it is ODM, my party. It is CORD. So I never impose myself on the people.
But would you like to be on the ballot in 2017?
I never impose myself on the people. I'm a servant of the people. So if the people want me to be on the ballot, I will make up my mind at appropriate time. So I've not yet even said that I'm going to be in the ballot. I've said I will make up my mind at appropriate time.
You can watch the full interview on our website, www.standardmedia.co.ke, and you can also catch ODM Executive Director Margaret Langat live on KTN Morning Express. He will be speaking to Sophia Wanona.
The Big Q in association with Total Quartz.
That exclusive interview, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, of course, with Yvonne Okarai, says if the people want him on the ballot, then probably he'll make up his mind when that time comes. He forms the basis of our big question tonight. We're asking, should Raila Odinga run for president again in 2017?
Yes, what do you think? SMS us 22155. Your views, we shall be sharing them with you shortly. Also on Twitter at Ben_Kitili, at KTN Kenya, and at Prime. Let's now cross borders to the world's newest state, South Sudan, with reports of new fighting, new clashes in 3 states at Jonglei, Upper State and Unity State of South Sudan, just days after peace talks between the South Sudanese President Salva Kiir and his former Vice President Riek Machar in Addis Ababa under the stewardship of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD. And in its studio, we bring in the South Sudanese ambassador to Kenya, James P. Morgan, to just shed some light on this. So, new clashes in 3 states, reports coming from South Sudan. Just give us a picture of the situation there. And was this about oil again?
Ben, this is something that on the 9th of this month, our leaders recommitted themselves into the cessation of hostilities, which was signed on January 23rd, 2014. And all this time, this cessation of hostilities had been violated by the rebels. The fact that the IGAD doesn't have monitors on the ground to tell the truth which side really started the fighting. They've always been saying that both sides. But we had been telling them that there's no way that both sides can decide to do something together. There must be something, somebody must start, and the other one maybe retaliate. But all the same, on the 9th of this month, our president traveled to Addis Ababa, where all the leaders of IGAD were there. They recommitted themselves together with the rebels. It was no longer the cessation of hostilities, but the agreement was aimed to end the fighting. It was a permanent ceasefire on the 9th of this month. On the 10th, the rebels again started to attack our positions in a place called Dugdug. Dugdug is in north of Rank. You know, they just came and attacked our position there.
So this comes just a day actually after the peace talk. So what do you attribute this to?
Not only days, it was just a matter of hours, just hours after signing. So to us, it is just business as usual on the side of the rebels, because this is what they had been doing. They've never committed themselves into any ceasefire. This is what has been happening. So, but we had been telling the region and the world at large that, you see, it is better. We don't have any appetite in this war. We don't have any interest to pursue it. But we don't understand what the rebels are up to now, because after signing of this, the government even made a lot of concessions. You know, there was the issue of the Prime Minister, which is the position that Riek Machar wanted to be created, though we don't have it in our constitution, but yet, for the sake of peace, it was agreed.
Mr. Ambassador, the IGAD has been blamed or has taken the flak for apparently not failing to take a united position in the peace talks in South Sudan. Now they've even issued sanctions in 2 weeks' time if the two leaders do not, come to an agreement. Now, many people in Africa thought this was the united spirit that was going to take South Sudan forth.
It was, in fact, all of us as a government, we welcome the position of IGAD. But what surprised us was the attack. But yet, even if the attack happened, it was still the government is committed to pursue the peace. We are not interested in any war. We are still interested to pursue the peace, and at the moment we are given 15 days of the consultations with our constituencies so that we can come up with what our constituencies will be saying. Because the position of the Prime Minister, which was a little bit difficult, because we don't have it in our constitution. But now that it has been said that this is what the rebel leader wanted, now we have agreed. We have agreed that the position of the Prime Minister will be created for him. If that is what you want anyway, it will be created, and it has been accepted. Now we don't care. We are not really worried about the attacks, because this had been what they had been doing from day one. So even if the attack is there, the government is still committed to pursue the peace.
So 1.1 million people displaced in South Sudan. The oil industry is crippled. So many people have been killed, tens of thousands. Is this really what South Sudan, fought independence for? Or do you see a peace in the near future?
Of course, we are positive. We are optimistic that peace will come, because it is not all the South Sudanese who are fighting. It is the same Riek Machar of 1991. It is the same Riek Machar of 2013. So if it was somebody else, then the world will be worried that these people are not able to live together. But if it is the same person doing it, then also something need to be thought about it.
Finally, very quickly, you say it was the rebels, but Riek Machar always says he always holds his end of the deal. He always blames the government. What do you say to that?
Of course, this is what they are doing. Before even they start campaigning that we are being attacked. Well, there is no even attack. And we're wondering who is attacking them. And then they will come, when, like now I'm in your studio. If I come and fight here, is it your mistake or it is my mistake because I came here? So this is what they always come to our garrisons. And when we attack our garrisons, we have the right to defend ourselves. This is what is happening. We really don't go after them. And even the recent one, nobody went after them. They were repulsed, and our forces remain in their positions up to now.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Okay, Dwayne,
James P. Morgan, the Ambassador of South Sudan to Kenya, just shedding some more light on that. And of course, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, has given South Sudan, or the two leaders, as one sanctions if they don't, agree on a peace, on a way forward concerning the peace talks in 15 days. Actually, Linda.
Ben Kitele, they are speaking to South Sudan's ambassador to Kenya. Hope is rife indeed that the IGAD brokered peace deal will hold in South Sudan. We're keeping an eye on that story for you. Now, the ghosts of the botched August 1982 coup that rocked Kenya's political and social landscape have refused to rest as more tales of the horrors that resulted from the chaos emerge. In Kisumu's Nyahera village lives a former soldier who still nurses wounds from the events that will forever remain etched in the collective memories of Kenyans for generations to come. KTN's Fredo Mulo brings us the tale of a forgotten soldier.
Joshua Okello spends most of his time in bed, cursing the fateful day when a bunch of junior Air Force officers in Nairobi decided to attempt an overthrow of President Daniel Moi's government. The 17-year veteran was in his quarters at the barracks, slumbering in bed with his wife who was 7 months pregnant when all hell broke loose.
Nilivutwa mpaka nje ya nyumba. Nilipofika nje, nilikamata bunduki na ile masol ya bunduki. Huyo akauliza mkubwa yake yule alikuwa naye. Akamwambia, boss, nipige huyu risasi. Boss akamwambia, hapana, usipige risasi.
What followed was 8 months of horror, but that was just the beginning. Targeting him and other senior officers, the mutineers rounded them up and held them captive, but the next day the coup was crushed. Unfortunately, when the military police started conducting investigations, they picked him up and turned him into a guest of the state at the Naivasha and Kamiti maximum prisons.
Kumbe wakati tunakaa hapo magari ya prison ilikuwa imeshaletwa hapa Mariamu. Sasa wakati wakimaliza na wewe unaingia kwa Mariamu. Mariamu unapeleka Kamiti. Mimi nilipelekwa Kamiti, nilifika Kamiti saa 6 za usiku.
After undergoing torture in detention, a court-martial cleared Okello of wrongdoing, but the new Air Force bosses decided not to renew his contract despite his clean record. His wife Rosemary also suffered beatings at the hands of the mutineers and was left with serious injuries.
Ndio sasa hiyo bunduki, hiyo nyuma ya bunduki ikapiga tumbo yangu. Nilikuwa na mimba mwezi 7. Na wakati huo sasa tukakaa chini, mimi nilianguswa chini mpaka chini kabisa. Niliona na macho yangu.
Dismissed from the only job he knew, Okello was given 60 shillings for transport to his rural home and warned not to go anywhere near an army barrack in Kenya. Unknown to him, this was the beginning of his torment. The torture he had endured slowly ate up his body, leaving him confined to a wheelchair within a few years.
Tulichapwa wakati unaingia kwa gari. Unachapwa kabisa. Na tulipofika tena huko, kili imetuharibu zaidi ni kuwekwa kwa maji. Maji ilikuwa nawekwa mpaka inafika juu ya magoti mguu kama hapa. Na unataka ulale kwa hiyo maji.
Unable to fend for his family and his wife, who was also partially disabled on that fateful night, Okello's children slowly dropped out of school, with none of them making it beyond high school. Today they all hold odd jobs, with the eldest working as a hawker and sending home the little he can save.
Ikawa naenda soko ndio siweze kukaa mzuri. Sasa hiyo soko pia nikawacha sababu niko na miti 2 hii. Sasa natembea na miti 2 sababu ya hiyo mguu yangu walipiga.
Ambaye kama mimi naweza kupata mtu ambaye anaweza kusaidia nione vile naweza kupata kitu yangu. Mungu anajua, hata mimi najua vile naweza kufanya.
The forgotten soldier has vowed to donate his only parcel of land to whoever can help him access compensation for wrongful dismissal and non-payment of his dues. His case comes hot on the heels of recent lawsuits where impoverished servicemen sued the state for dismissal under similar circumstances. Fredo Mulo, KTN Prime.
Third story of veteran soldier Okello. Now, to our top story, survivors of last evening's attack in Isiolo are nursing bullet wounds at the Isiolo Level 4 hospital as security and political leaders pleaded with the residents not to engage in revenge attacks. KTN's Karen Derry was in Isiolo, where 8 people were killed in yesterday's conflict between the Samburu and Turkana communities.
Wails of protests rent the air at Ngarimara in Isiolo County. Anguished residents protesting the killings of 8 people Tuesday night inside the Buffalo Springs Park. The 8 were shot dead in a tribal conflict believed to be between the Turkana and Samburu. The fatalities are believed to have been from one community.
Mimi niko na uchungu sana kwa sababu waume wetu wameuawa, tumebaki mayatima. Kwa hivyo ile kitu mimi nitasema kwa siku ya leo, tunataka serikali iingilie kati ya hii maneno.
Kwa nini waliua mtu juzi? Jumamosi tulisika mtu na leo watu 8 wanalala.
The Isiolo Marsabit Road was a no-go zone for the better part of the day as agitated residents from one community blocked the road. It took police intervention to restore normalcy and allow stranded motorists who had been kept waiting for hours to continue with their journey. Peter Ekuleo is a distraught man. His 25-year-old son Paulo Mzee is among the 8 who lost their lives.
Sasa kufika Isiolo nikasikia jana mambo metendeka, mambo mbaya. Nini? Vijana kwisha. Sijajua kama yangu iko ndani. Sijajua kabisa. Sasa asubuhi ndio nikasikia ile kijana wako hata nikimbilia kwa ile ng'ombe yenu.
A visibly angry Ekuleo accused the government of turning a blind eye to their plight.
Serikali amenisaidii. Unaona? Hakuna hata msaada mimi napata kwa serikali. Mimi mfugo ndio mimi naenda nauza, ndio napeleka mtoto siweze kwenda. Ndio mimi nasomesha hii wengine maskini ya Mungu.
Survivors of the incident are nursing their bullet wounds here at the Isiolo Level 4 hospital. Philip Loyolo and Francis Erie were shot at by their attackers.
Tulikuwa tunachunga ng'ombe. Wakati sisi tulipeleka ng'ombe kwenye papa. Sasa kumbe ni Samburu iko mbele. Sisi tunachunga ng'ombe, ilikuwa hakuna kitu kingine tunajua. Tukasikia tu risasi. Watu tunakufa. Kuangalia pande hii, watu hapo ndio kwa pande hii. Angalia pande hii, watu hapo. Sasa hiyo watu tunamaliza tu sisi namna hiyo.
Tulikuwa na shunga. Alafu tulipeleka ng'ombe huko park. Alafu tukaona watu, tusikia risasi kwa mbele ya ng'ombe. Na kufanya hivi tukaona watu. Alafu watu yakakuja na tukamaliza hivi.
Most of them had gunshot wounds, save for one whom we are taken to theater. And he sustained a fracture in the larger bone on the arm.
One of the victims, Leper Kadir, a member of the rival community, says he was attacked along the Ngarimara area as soon as the attackers realized he was from their rival community. Isiolo County Commissioner Wanyama Musiambo says it took them close to 2 hours to retrieve the bodies from the thicket at the Buffalo Springs Park. Part of the investigations revolve around the fact that the two communities were grazing their herds quite a distance from each other, and it is not clear how they clashed.
What we discovered, or what I discovered with my team, is there was a confrontation of these two people, but they were not grazing at the same time. Animals were in the park, but you could see a difference of about 18 to 20 kilometers from one herd of cattle belonging to one group, and the other belonging to the other group. And that is what we are investigating.
We don't see bloodshed in Isiolo. It's a terrible incident because you cannot find 8 people killed just in a cold blood.
Wanyama says there could be other factors at play.
We are also investigating the political angle. You are right. It's a part of, we don't want to preempt at this stage that it is this and this. It's just part of what we are piecing together.
Isiolo, once a bedrock of conflict, has been relatively peaceful in the recent past, and the killings of the 8 people, it is feared, could reignite clashes in this vast county that is home to 5 major communities.
Sisi tunapata information ya kwamba maadui wanakuja. Na tukienda kupiga ripoti kama viongozi wanapuuza. Wanatuambia muliwana namna gani, ni wangapi, wanatuuliza maswali ambayo haiwezi kutusaidia.
The situation is still somewhat volatile here in Ngarimara area of Isiolo County following the death of 8 people in the conflict. And while the authorities say they're investigating the incident to bring the culprits to book, members of the community say they want peace, as Isiolo County has been relatively peaceful and they want it to remain so. Carol Derry, KTN in Isiolo County.
You're watching KTN Prime.
Good evening, I'm Joy Doreen Bira. Let's take a look at the day's business. Majority of home buyers in the country are buying with the intention of earning rental income. This is according to a new home ownership report by Haas Consult that also reveals a shift in the type of buyers as women reverse the trend of a male-dominated market. KTN's Charles Kitonga kicks off tonight's business.
A new wave is slowly taking over the property market in Kenya. About 5 years ago, people would buy homes to provide a better roof over their heads, but today, that seems to be changing. A larger section of home buyers today are purchasing their property and using it to generate more income through rental. The home ownership report shows that 56% of those buying villas are renting them out. For townhouses, 62% of buyers are renting them out, 35% are occupying them, while 3% are selling them for capital gain. The trend is duplicated in the apartments market, where 75% of buyers are renting them out, with only 16% selling them. The report links this trend to the escalating property prices in the market.
The main reason that property prices are escalating in Kenya is because people are buying it to rent out because they find it a good investment. They're finding the rental returns are good, as well as the capital gain in prices that they'll have over the years.
Even as people's use for property changes, the types of buyers also seem to be taking a shift. Institutions and couples are the lead home buyers in Kenya today, as opposed to 5 years ago when men were the predominant buyers. How then does such a trend inform the developers on the type of properties they should be developing? And does it signal an end to the man of the house culture?
It will affect the decisions now of developers. Because if you find that most people are buying to let out, and an increasing amount is women, couples, and institutions, it will definitely affect the kind of houses that you're building.
Home ownership, however, remains a mirage for many, as average mortgage rates stagnate at 16.02%.
Different banks look at various things to determine pricing for their different lending products, and one of the things that come into play is, of course, cost of funding, whereby then we look at what we are paying for the funding that we are able to get and further lend out to our customers.
Aisha was saying that, home ownership is now so accessible, but it isn't.
Charles Gitonga, KTN.
Cooperative Bank of Kenya is reporting slow growth in profitability in the 9-month period ended September, weighed down by high operating expenses. During the period, the bank's net profit declined 9% to 6.3 billion shillings compared to the 6.9 billion shillings a year earlier. Now, this was as a result of interest expenses that grew 27% to 5.8 billion shillings, while operating expenses rose by 13.9% to 14.4 billion shillings, which ate into the income. The performance goes against the trend set out by its rivals KCB and Equity Bank that have reported stellar performance. There was a positive for the bank as the loan book grew to 175.9 billion shillings, with interest income up from 8.8% to 20.8 billion shillings. Coop Bank has hired the services of global advisory firm McKinsey with the view of bringing down costs to spur profitability. And it is no longer news that Kenya is the hottest thing in the global investment scene. But did you know that African firms are now eyeing the opportunities emerging in the region? According to the latest Deloitte Chief Financial Officer survey, corporates throughout sub-Saharan Africa are now looking to set up operations in Kenya, bringing a season of plenty for local firms. Adelaide Changole has more.
This is the image that comes to mind when you think of Kenya, the land of white sandy beaches and wildlife safaris. But Kenya's story is changing. The country's investments in road, rail and airport infrastructure, its geopolitical location at the heart of Africa and gateway into the East African region, and the abundance of well-skilled workers and its advanced technological advancements have all made it the flavor of the year for international investors.
There's a lot of activity, and I think there's a lot of buoyancy around the East African economy, and that's playing through in the mindsets of CFOs.
According to the latest Deloitte Chief Financial Officer survey, CFOs throughout sub-Saharan Africa are lining up to invest in the country. But these African firms will have to contend with stiff competition from other African, Asian, European, and American investors that are flocking in. And this reality is already translating itself into a bonanza for local firms that have gone from struggling to access financing to now being able to pick and choose from the bevy of interested suitors.
35 years forward profit, 30 years forward profit in cash now, and the seller says, I'm not selling. That's the level of activity in the market, which is inflating prices. So the hunt is on for good assets in the market, good quality assets. And those that have the good quality assets obviously are commanding a premium price.
But the CFOs are, however, concerned about the availability of appropriate skills to meet their requirements in the country.
The Kenyan CFOs don't see talent as a problem. The CFOs that are coming into the country see it as a problem. So I don't know if that's naivety or lack of knowledge or what it is.
And while the country hots up, Kenyan companies are not sitting on their laurels. According to the survey, Kenyan firms have adopted a defensive strategy to boost their competitiveness and sustainability as a means of both survival and growth.
So you're being defensive in the sense that you're making sure your operations are fine, your value of your company is good, in preparation, in a sense, for all this competition that's coming in.
Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
Welcome to KTN Sport. Now, the government has thrown its weight behind Football Kenya Federation's bid to host the 2017 African Cup of Nations. The bid was unveiled in Nairobi today in an event attended by Sports Secretary Hassan Wario. Initially, the Federation had bid to host the 2019 event, but after Libya withdrew, the Federation was given the go-ahead to bid for the 2017 edition. Wario announced that the government will build 2 stadia before the final phase of inspection.
The Federation, through the support of the government, unveiled a bid that they hope will get the necessary approval from the Confederation of African Football, CAF. Kenya had bid for the 2019 edition, but after Libya pulling out and the 2015 tournament rocked by Morocco opting out, Kenya primes itself to host the 2017 extravaganza. A local organizing committee has already been formed with membership from FKF, government agencies such as the Stadium Management and Kenya Tourism Boards, representatives from the Barclays Premier League, Pay Channel TV Supersport, and security agencies.
We have been able to get CHAN 2018. The government gave us a guarantee. If you see what's happening in Africa now, we have a problem. Where there is stability is these countries like Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, and others.
It was an emergency bid, so a lot went into it, and it is another occasion for us to share with you so that you really know what you are doing, what you are working on. I believe you had to hire a special agency from France to help us in the bid.
Currently, the Safaricom Stadium in Kasarani and the Nyayo Stadium are the only facilities recognized to host such a high caliber competitions. But the government has given an undertaking to build 2 new facilities.
By around May, June next year, we'll be very clear on the type and the place where we're going to build the stadium. The initial idea is 2 stadia, because you can't manage 5 financially, but also managing construction of 5 stadia. 1 high altitude and then 1 low altitude. I think Mombasa is the one in the manifest.
The government and Federation have earmarked Eldoret, Mombasa, Kisumu, and Nairobi as the areas that can host the Africa Cup of Nations. Hassan Juma, KTN Sports.
Indeed, daring to dream. Cases of player boycott and lack of adequate training facilities by the national women's volleyball team may be a thing of the past. For the first time in the history of the game, a sponsor has taken over the team's burden. National Oil Corporation has pumped a total of 14 million shillings in sponsorship for the next 3 years.
The national women's volleyball team has dominated in Africa for a while now, winning 8 out of the 9 African championship titles. Their success, however, can solely be attributed to their sheer hard work, since one of their biggest challenges was lack of financial support, both from the government and the corporate community. This will not be the case anymore, as the National Oil Corporation has turned on the money taps. And for the next 3 years, the Malaika Strikers will have 14 million shillings to spend on its operations in and out of the country.
Our title sponsorship as National Oil comes on board with effect from this month. We will be the title sponsor of this team with a sponsorship of 14 million shillings every year for the team for the next 3 years.
The government, whose facilities the national team has been struggling to get access to, has also opened its doors. Sports Cabinet Secretary Dr. Hassan Wario was clear on his ministry's intentions to support the multiple African champions.
We've decided that we're going to make sure the team has access to those facilities. We will sit down with the Kasarani administration to make sure that you're not held back.
With the support from the National Oil, it is expected that the other corporate entities will follow suit to oil the heels and elbows of this team that has walked the thorny path, beating all odds to silence the well-oiled machines from North Africa.
This kind of sponsorship is a morale booster of the team. We've been yearning for such a thing, and now it has happened. And I think now Kenya should expect better performance. What we did last year, the World Grand Prix, where we won 3 matches, was nothing compared to what we are going to do next year.
With the support received, the team can now focus on the All-Africa Games qualifiers set for mid-February next year, the Africa Cup of Nations, and the All-Africa Games qualifiers.
Back to football. Football Kenya Federation is adamant that the top flight football league will have a total of 18 teams next season. The federation wants to expand the league so that they can create room for other teams' growth rather than making the league an exclusive entity. There has been opposition towards the increment from the current 16, but according to the federation, these negotiations date back to the days when Kenya had two factions and had the approval of the world governing body, FIFA.
The two teams we are relegating from Kenya Premier League are very strong teams. What happens if those teams again, they come down to National Super League? Because they are strong, they go back again the following year. We will never have any other time in promoting those teams, the other teams. So we as a federation, we have given a proposal and we want our friends, stakeholders, to look at it so that this year we will have 18 teams.
But the message is this: clean up your federations so that you can attract more money. I have been told by various people, football, let's do something more so that we can bring in money. When the president give us a reason to hope that we will clean up our business and football will start attracting mega money as it does in other parts of the country, other parts of the world.
And finally, the 2014 Kenya National Rally Championship Series leader and defending champion Baldev Chaga, together with Carl Tundo, will be the center of attention during the season-ending Guru Nanak Rally set for the 23rd of November in Naivasha. Chaga needs only a podium finish to retain the overall title, just in case Tundo wins the event.
Kwa mwaka mbili zilizopita imekuwa tough sana, yani barabara ziko rough sana. Tunahisi hii rally watatupatia barabara at least njema kidogo ambayo tunaweza kuendesha, tuenjoy rally yetu. Unajua hatutaki kwenda kuvunja magari, ni rally ya mwisho ya season. Sasa hatutaki gari zikishinde kwa garage for another mwezi 2-3 till the next rally. Lakini tunahisi hii rally itakuwa smooth kidogo. Tunaenda tena kwenye private farms, so tunahisi itakuwa rally nzuri.
For you on sports.
So should Raila Odinga run for president again in 2017? That was our big question tonight on KTN.
Very quickly, Bernard says, yes, let him try his last chance. Kenyans will decide whether to give him an opportunity or not.
Felix Lex says, yes, he is a man of wisdom and experience in leadership and still energetic.
And Tata Ndumbi says, no, he should step down for someone young like Ababu Nawamba. We want change and Raila has failed to deliver. And another one finally here from Paul Mwan, who says, yes, even if reached 150 years, I'll still support him. Those are some of your feedback on Twitter and on the SMS line. Many thanks for participating in our big question tonight.
We wind up KTN Prime on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night. I'm Linda Ogutu.
A wonderful night. I'm Ben Kitili. Jeff Konange Live begins shortly.